The conference room door slammed shut at 3:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I was sitting across from Marcus Hartwell III, the 28-year-old heir to a tech empire worth billions. His father's company, Hartwell Industries, had been my home for 7 years. I had climbed from junior analyst to VP of strategic partnerships through pure grit and results. The mahogany table between us gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, reflecting my stunned expression. Everything in this room, from the leather chairs to the crystal water glasses, represented the power I had helped build but would never truly possess. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world are you watching from. I stared at the termination letter he had just slid across the polished surface. The company letterhead at the top was embossed with gold. It was the same letterhead I had used to close deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The same letterhead that had made me feel powerful, important, untouchable. Now it was delivering my professional death sentence. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his expression a mixture of entitlement and barely concealed satisfaction. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, but it couldn't hide what he really was underneath. A spoiled child playing with his father's toys. "This is effective immediately, Sarah," he said, his voice carrying the casual cruelty of someone who had never faced real consequences. "Security will escort you out. 7 years. 7 years of 80-hour weeks. 7 years of building relationships with the most powerful investors in Silicon Valley. 7 years of turning his father's traditional manufacturing company into a tech powerhouse." And this was how it ended. Over what? A disagreement about company direction. A challenge to his authority. The crime of being right when he was wrong. I picked up the letter, my hands steady despite the storm raging inside me. The words blurred together. Restructuring. Performance issues. Immediate termination. All lies wrapped in corporate speak. Marcus had wanted to pivot the company toward cryptocurrency ventures. I had presented data showing it would be a disaster. I had been right about every major decision for 7 years. But being right wasn't enough when you were challenging the boss's son. "You're making a mistake, Marcus," I said quietly. My voice was calm, professional. I had learned long ago that showing emotion in these situations was a luxury I couldn't afford. He laughed, a short, ugly sound that echoed off the conference room walls. "The only mistake I made was letting you stay this long. You forget your place, Sarah. You're an employee, not a partner. This is my company. His company, not his father's. Not the company I had helped transform. His." The entitlement was breathtaking. I stood up, straightening my blazer. 7 years of memories flashed through my mind. The late nights spent crafting proposals. The flights to Tokyo, London, Dubai. The handshake deals worth hundreds of millions. The investors who trusted me more than they trusted anyone else in the company. Especially Viktor Kozlov. Viktor Kozlov was not just any investor. He was the kind of man who could make or break entire industries with a single phone call. His portfolio was worth over $2 billion, and Hartwell Industries was one of his largest holdings. More importantly, Victor was my client. I had cultivated that relationship for 3 years. I had earned his trust through results, not birthright. Every major deal we had closed, every successful acquisition, had been because Victor trusted my judgment. Not Marcus's, not even his father's. Mine. The security guard appeared at the door like clockwork. Marcus had planned this perfectly, or so he thought. "Your personal items will be mailed to you," Marcus continued, clearly enjoying himself. "And Sarah, don't even think about trying to contact any of our clients or investors. Your non-compete agreement is very specific about that." I smiled for the first time since entering the room. It was a small, knowing smile that made something flicker in Marcus's eyes. Doubt, perhaps. Fear. "You should have read that non-compete agreement more carefully, Marcus," I said, my voice still perfectly calm. "Especially the section about wrongful termination and the conditions that void certain clauses." The color drained from his face. He hadn't expected me to know the fine print of my own contract better than he did. But then again, Marcus had never been good with details. That was always my job. I walked toward the door, past the security guard who looked uncomfortable with the whole situation. At the threshold, I turned back. Marcus was still sitting at the table, but his confident posture had cracked. "One more thing," I said. "Viktor Kozlov is expecting my call at 4 p.m. We have a standing appointment every Thursday. I'd hate to keep him waiting." The walk to the elevator was the longest 30 seconds of my professional life. My entire career, my reputation, my future, everything hung in the balance. Either I was about to prove that relationships trump hierarchy, or I was about to discover that loyalty in business is just another word for naive. The elevator doors closed behind me with a soft ding. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Victor's number. My finger hovered over the call button. This was it. The moment that would define everything that came next. Either Victor would stand by me, or Marcus would be proven right. I was just an employee. Replaceable. Forgettable. I pressed call. Victor answered on the second ring. His voice, accented with the faint remnants of his Russian childhood, was warm and familiar. "Sarah, my friend. Right on time, as always. How are things at Hartwell?" I took a deep breath. "Victor, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully." There was a pause. In the background, I could hear the faint sounds of his New York office. Papers shuffling, distant conversations. The sounds of a financial empire in motion. "I'm listening. I've just been terminated by Marcus Hartwell. Effective immediately." The silence that followed was profound. I could practically hear Victor's brilliant mind working, processing not just what I had said, but all the implications that came with it. Viktor Kozlov hadn't built a $2 billion portfolio by being sentimental, but he also hadn't built it by being stupid. "Tell me everything," he said finally. So I did. I told him about the cryptocurrency scheme. I told him about the data I had presented showing it would decimate the company's value. I told him about Marcus's reaction, his need to assert dominance over competence. I told him about the termination meeting, the security escort, the transparent power play of a spoiled child. When I finished, Victor was quiet for a long moment. "Sarah," he said finally, "in 3 years of working together, have you ever given me bad advice? No. Have you ever missed a deadline, failed to deliver on a promise, or put your interests above the success of a deal? No. Then we have a problem. Because I have $180 million invested in Hartwell Industries specifically because you are there. Your judgment, your relationships, your ability to execute. Not Marcus's. Yours." My heart began to race. This was the moment. The fulcrum on which my entire future would balance. "What are you saying, Victor?" "I'm saying that my investment was in the Sarah Mitchell version of Hartwell Industries. Without you, that company is just another mid-tier manufacturing firm with delusions of tech grandeur. Marcus Hartwell couldn't strategically plan a lunch order, let alone manage my investment." The elevator reached the ground floor, but I didn't get out. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, as Viktor Kozlov made a decision that would change everything. "Here's what's going to happen," he continued, his voice taking on the commanding tone I had heard him use with CEOs and government ministers. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. As the largest investor, I have the right to demand accountability for major personnel decisions, especially decisions that threaten the value of my investment. Victor, you don't have to. Sarah, listen to me carefully. I didn't build my fortune by letting spoiled children gamble with my money. Marcus just made a $2 billion mistake. He's about to learn that lesson the hard way." The elevator doors opened again. This time, I stepped out into the lobby I had walked through thousands of times over 7 years. The marble floors gleamed under the crystal chandeliers. The Hartwell Industries logo was embedded in gold letters on the wall behind the reception desk. It had always felt like home. Now it felt like a mausoleum. "What do you need from me?" I asked Victor. "Nothing. Just be ready to answer your phone tomorrow. Things are about to get interesting." The line went dead. I stood in the lobby for a moment, processing what had just happened. Employees streamed past me, heading home for the day. Some nodded in recognition. Others looked confused, probably wondering why I was standing in the lobby with a box of my personal belongings. None of them knew that in the space of a single phone call, the entire power structure of their company had just shifted. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Jennifer Walsh, the head of HR. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. This wasn't my decision. Your severance package and final paperwork will be couriered to your home tomorrow." I typed back quickly. "Thank you, Jen. Don't worry. Everything happens for a reason." I walked out through the glass doors into the cool evening air. The city hummed around me with its usual energy. Traffic, construction, life moving forward. I felt strangely calm. For 7 years, I had been building something I thought was mine. A career, a reputation, a place in a world that didn't usually welcome people like me. But I had been building it on someone else's foundation. That foundation had just crumbled, but I was still standing. My phone rang again. This time it was my mentor, Catherine Phillips, the woman who had first brought me into the investment world a decade ago. "Sarah, I just heard. Are you all right?" Catherine had a network of contacts that rivaled the CIA. Nothing happened in our industry without her knowing about it within hours. "I'm fine, Catherine. Better than fine, actually." "Good. Because I've been getting some very interesting phone calls in the last hour. Apparently, Viktor Kozlov is making some waves. Big waves." I smiled as I walked down the street toward the parking garage. "Is he?" "Sarah, whatever you said to him, it's working. I've heard from 3 other major investors in the last hour. Word is traveling fast that Hartwell just made a major strategic error. The vultures are circling." The parking garage was dimly lit and echoing with my footsteps. I found my car and slipped inside, phone still pressed to my ear. "What kind of calls?" I asked Catherine. "The kind where very rich, very powerful people are asking me if I know how to get in touch with you. It seems your reputation is even stronger than you realized. People want to work with you, Sarah. Not with Hartwell Industries. With you." As I drove home through the evening traffic, my phone continued to buzz with messages. Colleagues expressing shock and support. Headhunters smelling opportunity. And one message that made me smile. "Heard what happened. Coffee tomorrow? We should talk." David Chun, managing partner, Meridian Capital. David Chun managed a $500 million venture capital fund and had been trying to poach me for 2 years. I had always been loyal to Hartwell. That loyalty had just been officially terminated. The next morning arrived with unusual clarity. I woke up early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. For the first time in months, I wasn't dreading the day ahead. I made coffee and sat on my balcony, watching the city wake up. My phone had been quiet since about midnight. The calm before the storm. At exactly 9 a.m., Victor called. "Good morning, Sarah. I thought you'd want to know that the emergency board meeting is starting in a few minutes. Marcus and his father are both present, along with the other major investors." "How do they look?" I asked. Victor chuckled. "Like men who are about to receive a very expensive education. I'll call you when it's over." The wait was excruciating. I tried reading, tried watching the news, tried cleaning my already clean apartment. Nothing worked. At 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. "It's done," Victor said without preamble. "What's done?" "Marcus has been removed from all operational roles, effective immediately." The board voted 7-2. His father abstained. I sat down heavily on my couch. "What about his position as VP of Development?" "Gone." The board agreed that his decision to terminate you constituted gross negligence of his fiduciary duties to the investors. They also agreed that the cryptocurrency venture he was pushing would have been disastrous. And his father? What did Robert say? Robert Hartwell is many things, but he's not stupid. When I laid out exactly how much value Marcus's decision had potentially cost the company, he realized his son had made an unforced error. A very expensive one. My doorbell rang. Victor heard it through the phone. "That'll be your new employment contract," he said. "What?" "Sarah, Hartwell Industries would like to offer you the position of Chief Strategy Officer. Effective immediately, with a 40% salary increase and an equity stake in the company." I walked to the door in a daze. A courier stood there with an envelope marked Urgent, Hartwell Industries. "Victor, I don't understand." "It's simple. The board realized that they have a choice. They can either have a company with Sarah Mitchell, or they can have a company without Sarah Mitchell. Only one of those options protects their investment." I signed for the envelope and returned to the phone. "What about Marcus?" "Marcus will remain as a junior advisor to his father. No operational authority. No strategic input. He'll essentially be learning the business from the bottom up. Think of it as expensive corporate daycare." The envelope contained exactly what Victor had described. A new contract, a new title, and a salary that was substantially more than I had been making. There was also a personal note from Robert Hartwell Sr. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. My son made a terrible mistake, and I allowed it to happen. I hope you'll accept this offer and help us build the future this company deserves." "Robert." I sat back down, the contract in my lap. In less than 24 hours, I had gone from fired to promoted. From terminated to indispensable. "Sarah, are you still there?" Victor's voice brought me back to the present. "I'm here." "Victor, I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me. Thank yourself." You spent 7 years building relationships based on competence and trust. I just reminded everyone what happens when you throw that away for ego. There was a pause. Besides, this was always about business. My investment is safer with you in charge of strategy than it ever was with Marcus making decisions based on what sounded cool. Over the next few weeks, the transformation was remarkable. My new office was on the executive floor, 2 doors down from Robert Hartwell Sr. The first thing I did was cancel the cryptocurrency venture that Marcus had been championing. The second thing I did was implement the strategic plan I had been developing for months, the one Marcus had dismissed. The results were immediate. 2 major deals that had been stalling suddenly moved forward. A partnership with a European firm that had been uncertain was finalized within days. Victor wasn't the only investor who noticed. David Chen called me 3 days after my promotion. Sarah, I have to admit, I'm impressed and slightly disappointed. I was hoping to steal you away from Hartwell. Sorry, David. I'm exactly where I need to be. Well, if you ever change your mind, you know where to find me. In the meantime, Meridian Capital would be very interested in co-investing with Hartwell on your next major deal. That was how it started. Within a month, I had 3 other major investment firms expressing interest in working with me directly. My Rolodex, which had always been my greatest asset, became a strategic weapon. I wasn't just executing deals anymore. I was creating them. Marcus, to his credit, kept a low profile. He showed up to work, attended meetings when required, and slowly began learning aspects of the business he had never bothered to understand. His father assigned him to work directly with our operations team, far from any strategic decisions. One afternoon, about 6 weeks after my return, I was reviewing quarterly projections when Robert Hartwell Sr. knocked on my office door. "Come in, Robert." He looked older than I remembered. The stress of nearly losing Victor's investment, combined with the realization of what his son had almost cost the company, had aged him visibly. "Sarah, I wanted to speak with you about something." "Of course." He sat down across from my desk, the same desk where Marcus had slid my termination letter just weeks before. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I've been thinking about succession planning," he said carefully. "About the future of this company." I waited, saying nothing. Robert was building to something important. Marcus is my son, and I love him. But this company is my life's work. It's bigger than family. It's bigger than legacy. It has to survive and thrive based on merit, not genetics. "What are you saying, Robert?" "I'm saying that in 5 years, when I'm ready to step down as CEO, I want to know that this company is in the most capable hands possible. I want to know that Victor's investment is protected. I want to know that the employees who depend on us will have jobs, and that the clients who trust us will continue to be served by the best." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "Marcus will inherit his shares in the company. That's his birthright. But leadership has to be earned." The conversation lasted another hour. By the end, I understood that Robert Hartwell Sr. wasn't just offering me a job. He was offering me a future, not as an employee, but as a partner, as his eventual successor. That evening, I called Victor to update him on the quarterly numbers. They were the best in company history. "You know, Sarah," he said after we had finished discussing the financials, "I've been in this business for 25 years. I've seen a lot of talented people derailed by politics, ego, and family drama. It happens. Yes, it does. But I've also learned something important. The best leaders aren't the ones who avoid conflict. They're the ones who turn conflict into opportunity. What Marcus meant as destruction, you turned into construction." As I hung up the phone and looked out at the city skyline from my office window, I reflected on how quickly everything had changed. 6 weeks ago, I had been an employee who could be discarded by a spoiled heir. Today, I was the strategic architect of a company's future with the backing of the most powerful investors in the industry. Marcus had intended to diminish me, to put me in my place, to remind me that I was just an employee in his family's company. Instead, he had freed me to become something more powerful than he could have imagined. Not just an employee, but an indispensable partner. He had forced me to test the strength of the relationships I had built, and I had discovered they were stronger than anyone realized. The following Monday, I walked into the same conference room where Marcus had fired me. This time, I was leading the meeting, the quarterly board review. Victor was there, along with the other major investors. Marcus sat at the far end of the table, taking notes. When I presented our strategic plan for the next year, the response was unanimous approval. Victor caught my eye and nodded slightly. A small gesture that said everything. After the meeting, as the board members filed out, Marcus lingered. We were alone in the conference room where everything had changed. "Sarah," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology." I looked at him, this young man who had tried to destroy my career and had inadvertently elevated it beyond anything I could have imagined. He looked genuinely contrite, humbled. "Marcus, we all make mistakes. The question is what we learn from them. I learned that titles don't make leaders, and that the most dangerous people to cross are the ones who've earned everything they have." He stood up to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. The company is better with you than without you." After he left, I sat alone in the conference room for a few minutes. The same mahogany table, the same leather chairs, the same crystal water glasses. But everything was different now. I had walked into this room as an employee who could be discarded. I was walking out as a partner with a $2 billion investor's backing and a clear path to the CEO's office. Sometimes the best thing someone can do for your career is try to destroy it. It forces you to discover just how strong you really are. And sometimes, you discover you're much stronger than anyone realized.